Rhino, we welcome to the program now Lee Yancy. He's a member of the Mississippi House of Representatives, District 74. That's his. That includes Rankin County. Serves as the chair of the House Drug Policy Cmte. Oh, yeah, we got him all plugged in so he can hear. Representative Lee Yancy is joining us in the Element Well studio. Appreciate you coming on there, Mr. Representative.
Good morning, Gerard. It's wonderful to be here.
Well, as you know, we've been talking about it. We got these general elections in the state of Mississippi coming up next week. We're inside.
Thank goodness.
Next Tuesday. Let's first talk about your race. What's up with that?
Well, I'm unopposed this year. For the first time in my life, I'm unopposed. I've had really tough races in the past, and apparently they think I'm doing a good job, or else no one wants the job, one of the two. And I'm appreciative of the voters of District 74, and it's an honor to represent them in the Mississippi House of Representatives.
So, should not be a big deal for you next. It's kind of anticlimactic. You're just ready to kind of get it over with.
Well, you can always lose in a write-in,
Yeah, that's true.
So there's that.
Unlikely. Don't think that's going to happen. And, along those lines, with respect to the state legislature, there are a number of races this year that are uncontested in the general election.
That's correct.
So folks don't have a lot of choice in certain situations, in districts.
Well, more than ever, incumbents are not being opposed. I think maybe there was a third of the House of Representatives that was unopposed, and apparently, like I said before, we do our best to represent our constituents and put forward the policies that they sent us there to get accomplished, and so hopefully we're doing that. Yeah.
Well, I just find that a little interesting. You may be right. Maybe a lot of folks just don't want the job. And that it doesn't get talked about a lot, but it does require lots of time, lots of effort for a fairly low amount of pay, honestly. But you know that when you sign up for it.
All of that, that, and there are some who don't have much other job other than being in the legislature, and some that have big jobs in the legislature, and you just have to prioritize your time and have a plan to get everything you need to get accomplished done.
Yeah. All right, so let's talk about the top of the ticket, the governor's race, which I think has been sort of the highest profile of all the races for sure, because honestly, the other races, the statewide races, not too terribly contentious, certainly not to the scope and level that the governor's race is, with incumbent Governor Republican Tate Reeves facing a stiff challenge from Public Service Commissioner, Democratic candidate for governor Brandon Presley. We've seen maybe as much mudslinging as I can remember in the state of Mississippi. It hadn't been quite that way in a while. We're no stranger to it, of course, but I don't know that I've seen it ratcheted up at this level, and it's across all the various forms of media. I don't think anybody in the state has not caught some ad from one or the other candidate. What do you think about that?
Well, I think that you're seeing an all-out barrage against Tate Reeves from the left. It is a sign that he's doing something right if you're a Republican. It's a sign that we're seeing taxes cut. It's a sign that we're seeing many of their education goals achieved from the Republican side, and they can't stomach that. And it's also a sign that that he's done a good job. The Roe versus Wade being overturned is untenable to the Democrat left, and they are pouring money in from all over the country to try and make a statement and try to get back at what we've been able to accomplish.
Yeah, and that's a good point. And the governor, I think, rightfully has been, of course, touting the accomplishments since he's been governor, and that starts with education. Honestly, monumental achievements there.
I mean, the highest teacher pay raise in Mississippi history. At the time, we were ahead of the national average. And we're going to continue to put money into our teachers to invest in them and have continued education gains. The Mississippi Miracle has been talked about all over the country. Our third to fourth grade reading scores, we've gone from almost last in the country all the way to 21st. So there's no question that the policies that Republicans have put in place are moving the needle, and children of all races are getting ahead.
Yeah, I totally agree. And again, the governor has been right in pointing that out. We had rather significant tax cuts passed. The governor, of course, was a proponent and still is a staunch advocate for full elimination of the income tax. We didn't quite get there, but what we got was a significant improvement from the standpoint of allowing people to keep more of their money. So the governor has made that point. He's also seen significant capital investment in new economic projects and expansion in the state of Mississippi as well since he's been governor. This is something, you know, him as well as I do. This is a big thing to him. He understands how critical this is to our state.
Absolutely. Job creation is going great. We're continuing to attract industry to our state. We are seeing low unemployment. So from an economic perspective, even in these hard economic times across the country and across the world, you see Mississippi still moving forward, creating jobs. Now there are, more jobs looking for people than there are people looking for jobs.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good thing. And so he thus has spent a fair amount of time working on just workforce development, just trying to get the workforce prepared for those jobs and allow them to gain the skills necessary to work the jobs that the employers in our state say they need people for. And he's put a lot of emphasis out on that since he's been a governor and also in his campaign. So Brandon Presley has desperately tried to connect the governor to the welfare scandal with the TANF funds, federal TANF funds, desperately, but nothing seems to stick that I can tell. Is this a winning strategy?
I don't think it is, and I hope and pray that it's not, because as lieutenant governor, you have nothing to do with federal funding, and it's just out of left field to try and tie him to that, and I don't think it's going to work. Now, number one, I think Republicans know that Tate Reeves is doing a good job. He's been faced with more disasters in his term than any other governor in history. I think before 2020, the most natural disasters that a governor ever had to deal with in 1 year was 4, and he had 14. So, I think he's done a great job. I don't think there's anyone who could have done a better job than he's done.
Yeah, and then later on to that, the Jackson water situation as well.
Oh, absolutely. COVID, all the tornadoes, hurricanes, on and on.
So Brandon Presley's also really emphasized the health care situation in the state of Mississippi, with many hospitals struggling from an economic perspective. And he's making the case that simply expanding Medicaid would cure that problem, and that he supports that. The governor does not. Of course, he says he's going to do that day one. I've made the point countless times here on the program, he doesn't have the power or the authority to do so. That requires appropriation of funds. That has to flow through and be approved by the legislature. He says that privately there's sufficient support in the legislature to enact and get a bill to his desk, if he were governor, to expand Medicaid. And he's a bit disingenuous in that, I think, and won't really give us any details on that.
Well, that's been kind of a one-note song for the Democrats on Medicaid expansion. And, every hospital administrator I've talked to has said that, of course, the money would help, but it would not prevent hospitals that were closing from closing.
Right.
And, we have a paradigm of an old hospital system designed for people to go in and stay long-term for inpatient care. And you've got a population shift out of the Delta and out of rural areas to the suburbs, if you will. And, people are looking more for outpatient type care rather than inpatient. And the hospitals in those places where they've lost population are just struggling because, they don't have the patients they used to have. They don't have the patients stay the length of time they used to stay. And so we really need to get rid of the CON law so that we can have more competition in health care.
Yep.
That's one of the things that I'm going to continue to push.
Yep. Well, if you can hang around, we can discuss that further in the next segment.
Absolutely.
All right. We got Representative Lee Yancy in the Element Well studio. Stay with us. We are coming right back. Well, studio, it's Lee Yancy, Representative Lee Yancy from District 74. That's nearby Rankin County. Once again, happy birthday to Alex Boo Gibbert. It is her birthday today. You know, she works down there at the Secretary of State's office, so I hope they're taking care of them. I might have to call Watson and say, make sure you know it's my daughter's birthday.
Happy birthday, Boo.
There you go. All right.
It's Courtney's favorite politician.
Michael Watson? Oh, man.
My Courtney and her Courtney.
Gotcha. So, did you want to give a shout-out to some of your colleagues in Rankin County?
Well, I don't know if they deserve it, but hello to the Rankin County delegation. That would be, should I try to list them all?
Yeah, sure. One of them's coming in, Josh Harkins.
Okay, well, hi,
from
Josh.
The Senate.
Yeah. Josh and Dean, Fred, Gene, Brent, Price. We got some new ones coming in. I'm going to let them get sworn in before I give them shout-outs. But hope you guys are doing great.
Yeah. One of them we're trying to get in there, Celeste Hurst, wife of Mike Hurst. She represents part of Rankin County.
Absolutely
right?
does.
And Madison.
She does.
Yeah, that district.
Lance Varner
That's right.
is taking Tom Weathersby's place.
Yeah.
We got a new senator out there, Brian Rhodes.
Yeah.
Out in Pelahatchie.
Got some freshmen, as they say, coming in.
Yes, we do.
All right. Well, that ought to be fun. Yeah, ought to be good. So we were talking about this high-profile governor's race. Something we should point out is that late yesterday, former President Donald J. Trump, issued an endorsement, recorded a little video in support of Governor Tate Reeves, said that Brandon Presley is Joe Biden's candidate.
Oh, my goodness.
Do you think that will aid the governor as he steps into the last week of campaigning here?
I certainly do think it helps, particularly with the right wing of the party, those who were concerned about, what was going on with the race between Delbert Hosemann and Chris McDaniel. I think having former President Trump's support is big, and I think it's a big endorsement.
Yeah, I do too. And, of course, typically where you see endorsements work from a high-profile political figure would be in a primary as opposed to a general. You would certainly expect that a Republican former president would support and endorse the Republican candidate in a general election when you have general elections like we do in Mississippi where the parties have primaries and then one advances to the general. So, but nonetheless, I think we have a situation where there's some Republicans that have expressed concern about voting for Governor Reeves. And they have various grievances there, but they're likely also Donald Trump supporters. And maybe this pushes them to cast their vote for the governor.
Well, we live in strange times, and we need all Republicans to support Republicans. It matters who the governor is. And I don't know if people remember, but governors have the job of appointing our judges when there are vacancies. They have the job of appointing United States senators. If you'll remember, Haley Barbour appointed Roger Wicker.
Right.
If there were an opening for the next governor, I would imagine that Tate Reeves would appoint a conservative Republican, and I would imagine that Brandon Presley would appoint a Democrat.
Yep.
And so whether it's chancery judges or circuit judges, if you look, our former Governor Bryant appointed Shad White to be auditor and Andy Gibson to be ag commissioner and Cindy Hyde-Smith to be United States senator.
Yep.
Who the governor is matters. And if you are a Republican, we need you to go out next Tuesday and vote Republican.
Yeah, it's a good point. And the same could be said, of course, at the federal level. Can you imagine the makeup of the Supreme Court, given what we've seen Joe Biden appoint, had Donald Trump not prevailed in 2016? The Dobbs case, for example, no way that that ruling comes down the way it did. Affirmative action, another one. Student loans.
That's right.
Big stuff.
Who the president is matters, as we are seeing, and who the governor is matters. And we need all of our Republican voters to come out. We need a big turnout. We need everyone to go and vote.
Yeah, it's a big deal, no doubt. So something else, Representative Yancy, that I have spoken to other members of the legislature about, something you're familiar with, and I know the members are as well, is this PERS thing, which is hanging out there. And, of course, Executive Director Higgins of the Public Employees Retirement System has been meeting with members of the legislature, mainly those that are involved in finance and appropriations. Briggs Hobson in the Senate, Trey Lamar, et cetera, Jason, the likely next Speaker of the House. And bottom line is they need more money or they got to cut benefits. And cutting benefits is not very popular with the people. So more money means the taxpayers in general are on the hook to help stabilize the PERS fund. This is going to be something you guys are going to take up, I feel certain, in the next term.
Yes, we've got to do something. And, my mother is a retired school teacher, so I want everyone to know I have skin in the game and I'm looking out for my mama. But the PERS system is in trouble. And I think everyone involved in PERS, if they're being honest, would admit that having a $20 billion unfunded liability, only being 61% funded, is not good. And so what Mr. Higgins has told us in the legislature is that it would take $9 billion to make it whole right now. $9 billion.
Right.
He's asked for that is either a one-time sum, or which is unlikely, or $360 million a year for 25 years.
Right.
To make it whole.
Essentially, that's money that otherwise the state would appropriate to the general fund or use to cut taxes.
That's exactly right. And, it is a tough issue. He's asked for a 2% increase on the employer portion from 17.4 to 19.4 to take effect next July, and then adding another 2% every year after that until it gets to about 27.9.
That would be an additional 10%, and that is to achieve the contribution rate that the actuaries say is necessary to stabilize the fund.
That's right.
Have you done the math on how much that would cost the taxpayers? I have.
Go ahead and tell us.
$700 million a year.
$700 million a year. And so we're going to have to plant more money trees down there on the Capitol lawn to pay for all the money that they need. And so we've got to come up with some real solutions and try and figure this out. We're going to pay the people what we've promised them that we're going to pay them, but we've got to figure out how to put a period at the end of this sentence.
Yeah.
And I think maybe another tier is going to have to be added for new hires at some point, and we're just going to have to bite the bullet and pay the money for those who are in the system now. Yeah. There are things we can do to relieve the pressure, and not trying to scare everyone across the state, but a compounded COLA and a one-time lump sum for everyone in the program, over 300,000 people, puts a lot of pressure on the system. And if you could get the same amount of money but get it monthly instead of annually, that would help spread that out over 12 months instead of it all just coming out at one time. And that would relieve a lot of the downward movement as far as the unfunded liability and the cost becoming greater and greater.
It's a cash flow challenge.
We have more people retiring than we do working, and so it's very difficult. And we have to find real solutions. And again, we're going to pay people what they owe. I want people to hear us say that, state employees to hear us say that. We're not taking your money away, but we've got to find a way to fix this problem.
And want to be clear as well, I know I've shared with the audience that I'm writing an article. By the way, I know Ben from Madison has been anxious to see that. I did complete it, and I have forwarded it to our news director, J.T. Mitchell, who is going to review it today and put his editorial approval on it before it gets published. But I do make the point, we should make that as well here today, Lee, that nobody's in imminent risk of not receiving their retirement benefits. The program does not have a short-term problem. It has a long-term problem. But if you wait to address that long-term problem, it gets more expensive. And that's why Executive Director Higgins is working with the legislature, and I believe the legislature is going to take this up in earnest in the next term to just address the issue. It ain't going to fix itself. Action's going to have to be taken. There are a number of things that can be done, but we don't want anybody thinking that PERS is at risk of not sending you your check if you're retired. That is absolutely 100% false. That is not the case. The
That's correct.
Assets are there. Money is flowing, but on a long-term basis, and in fact, they project out to year 2047 is kind of what they're looking at. Mm-hmm. That's when it starts to become a serious problem. And so we don't want anybody thinking that.
That's right.
Yep. Appreciate you coming in as always and sharing your thoughts. And once again, we want folks to get out and vote. It's important.
Great to be here with you. I hope everyone will go vote on November 7th.
Appreciate it. Representative Lee Yancy, he's from District 74. That's Rankin County. We're coming right back, folks, in the Element Wealth studio.